Hey everyone, hope you're having an amazing day. It's Tom. Today's episode name is, Did the Great Flood Actually Happen? Floods in ancient records. The stories of the great ancient flood that swept everything alive permeate the mythology and legends of hundreds of cultures. People know the biblical story of Noah the most, but folklore has seen a great flood in nations around the world, from the Middle East to America, India, China, and South Asia. The Bible in the book, Genesis 6-9, describes the worldwide flood and the construction of Noah's Ark, a huge ship that carried people destined for God to survive, as well as animals. The Quran has an almost duplicate worldwide flood and tells the story of a huge ship that also transported animals. In addition, there are two older stories in ancient Babylonian epics that describe a huge flood. One of them is the Epic of Gilgamesh, which tells us a story similar to that of Noah and his ark. In it, a man named Utnapishtim is warned that an angry god is planning to destroy humanity and is told to build a ship to save himself, his family, friends and animals. After 7 days, Utnapishtim and his family landed safely on top of the mountain. Greek and Roman mythology tells the story of angry gods who plan to flood the earth and destroy humanity. The hero of the story, Deucalion, and his wife take refuge in the ark and are spared. American Indian legends also speak of people who took refuge in a ship to be saved from the floods of the world. And such stories are more and more. Scholars have noted similarities between them. In a study of more than 200 such flood myths, James Perloff noted that 95% of stories mentioned a global flood, 88% saved family members, 70% saved people on a ship, 67% saved animals, and 66% the flood was caused by human corruption, and 66% of people were warned in advance that a flood would come, and 57% of the survivors found dry land on the mountain. And in 200 stories exactly 8 people were saved in 20 of them. Because all of these stories describe hundreds of flood disasters from various places and cultures around the world, it is a clue that something must have happened on Earth to support this story. Could it have been a global flood? Scientists have several theories that suggest that they may. Let's examine these theories and find out whether such a flood occurred either globally or locally. Evidence and studies. Christians generally believe that this is the flood of Noah, a global event that God initiated to cleanse the world of wickedness and corrupt life, Genesis 6:13. Traces of such a global catastrophe are found in sedimentary rock on all continents that contain fossils, and these represent the destruction of all unwanted life. It has been proven that such layers of salt occur where the sea used to be and the water has dried up completely. Aquatic animal fossils are therefore commonly found in the middle of continents, such as in North America. Apparently it was a catastrophe that involved several events. Starting with heavy rains, the shifting of the Earth's plates, the subsequent rise of the seabed, which in turn resulted in huge tsunamis, and, last but not least, the melting of glaciers at the poles. Researchers at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, WHOI, have conducted detailed research, claiming that a massive glacial flood occurred about 13,000 years ago. The researchers came to their conclusions by analyzing the sediment kernels collected along the Canadian Mackenzie River. The sediment contained fossils of microscopic organisms known as foraminifera living in salt water. According to a press release, oxygen isotopes were preserved in the clams in a ratio corresponding to a large influx of fresh cold water. Radiocarbon dating of the shells then determined the approximate time of this catastrophe 13,000 years ago. The scientific community agrees, in part, that there has been a great flood, and the rest of the scholars admit the global catastrophe caused by meteorites, but everyone is still looking to answer questions about where and when it might have happened. One of the scientific theories was developed by Columbia University geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman. It was published by National Geographic and concerns the evidence of the flood that hit the Black Sea. Scientists believe that the Black Sea was once a freshwater lake and the land around it was agricultural land. As the huge glaciers melted, the Mediterranean Sea overflowed with a force 200 times greater than Niagara Falls, transforming the Black Sea from fresh to salt water and flooding the area. Inspired by the Ryan and Pittman hypothesis, Robert Ballard, a National Geographic Society explorer behind the discovery of the Titanic and carried out more than 100 different expeditions, discovered supporting physical evidence, including an underwater river valley and ancient coastline, as well as Stone Age buildings and tools under the Black Sea. His team also discovered fossils of today's extinct freshwater species, dating back approximately 7,460 to 15,500 years. Pittman was able to find irrefutable evidence that the Black Sea was originally a freshwater lake. Sunk civilizations. Sometimes people and scientific skeptics wave their hand at the legends that have been passed down, both in writing and orally, for millennia. One such classic example comes from Cambit Bay, formerly known as Cambay Bay. Here is the coastal city of Dvaraka in Jamnagar district in Gujarat. Traditionally, modern Indian Dvaraka is identified with Dvaraka, mentioned in the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata as the city of Krishna. Dvaraka was a port, but some scientists identified it as the island of Barkal listed in the ancient Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, which describes navigation and trade routes in the area. For generations, it has been said among the people in this area that there is a sunken ancient civilization which vanished in a huge catastrophe. The Indian government has commissioned the Ministry of Archaeology to inspect the submarine area. During a survey about 20 kilometers from the shore, they found buildings made of stones covered with sediment and sand covering 8 square kilometers. Divers at the National Institute of Ocean Technology (NIOT) collected stone blocks, sampled, found artifacts and copper coins, which scientists believe is evidence from about 3,600 years old. Some specimens were sent to the Manchurian and Oxford universities for carbon dating, and some subjects were found to be at least 9,000 years old. This civilization and its end are reunited by the date of the global flood. The story of the Great Flood of China is just one of a long tradition of similar legends in history. Now scientists claim to have found evidence that the Great Chinese Flood did happen. The hero of the Chinese Flood was the legendary ruler Yu the Great, who founded the first Chinese dynasty, Xia, which was the beginning of Chinese civilization. The stories of Yu and the foundations of the dynasty were written many hundreds of years before NL on bamboos and other ancient writings. But they were considered a myth until archaeologists found evidence. New research, published in the journal Science, describes both the earthquake and the massive floods that reshaped the region during the Yu reign, and also the emergence of the Xia dynasty much later than previously thought. Evidence of the flood was discovered by a group of researchers from China, Taiwan and the United States, who looked at sediments in the Yellow River Basin. Using radiocarbon dating, they discovered that the area had been hit by an incredibly severe flood. Researchers on both sides of the valley found that the wall of water that had fallen over the ground was 38 meters high. In one of my videos, I also talked and showed footage of an underwater stone structure in Japan, where stone structures were found lying underwater off Yonaguni Island, near the southern tip of the Japanese Ryukyu Islands. Japanese marine geologist, biologist, and seismologist Masaki Kimura from the University of Ryukyu is conducting a long-term survey here with his team. According to Kimura, the ruins date back to at least 5,000 years, 10,000 years, based on data from stalactites found in underwater caves that sank with the city. Submerged stone buildings could be the remains of a city ruin, also called Japanese Atlantis. Some experts also believe that the structures could be all that is left of the continent of Mu, a legendary Pacific civilization that is said to have disappeared under the waves. The monoliths at Pumapunk, 500 meters from Tiwanaku, excel in high weight, precise right angles, shapes, evenness and smoothness of the surface, and levels of processing indicating mechanical machining or stone casting. The whole complex shows signs of sudden catastrophic destruction. 10-ton blocks are scattered across the platform, as if they were pebbles, suggesting an apocalypse of epic proportions. It is undoubtedly one of the most mysterious places on our planet, and in fact scientists have not yet found, or do not want to find, how this civilization originated, where it came from, and why it disappeared. The monoliths at Pumapunk, 500 meters from Tiwanaku, excel in high weight, precise right angles, shapes, evenness and smoothness of the surface, and levels of processing indicating mechanical machining or stone casting. The whole complex shows signs of sudden catastrophic destruction. 10-ton blocks are scattered across the platform, as if they were pebbles, suggesting an apocalypse of epic proportions. It is undoubtedly one of the most mysterious places on our planet, and in fact scientists have not yet found, or do not want to find, how this civilization originated, where it came from, and why it disappeared. Conclusion. I did not include in the video many other pieces of evidence found around the world. These are, for example, sediment artifacts that are more than 12,000 years old and are often called forbidden archaeology. Just a flood is a topic for a long time, and I think you can look forward to the sequel. As we get closer to finding out if there has been a major global flood, we are also facing current and future massive floods. Today, catastrophic floods threaten 1 billion people, and that number will rise to more than 2 billion by 2050. The combination of climate change, deforestation, rising sea levels and population growth threatens us and increases the risk of floods and other disasters. Thanks for watching this video, and if you like it, please remember to give it thumbs up. Leave comment below, I'd love to read from you, and if you're not subscribed, click subscribe, and also click the little bell icon so you'll immediately get notified of the next video that I publish. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next video.